Download again. Oh, Alex, how nice of you to join us.
Yes.
What are we on?
Welcome to the digital download.
No.
It's SalesTV.
Oh, so it is.
That's going to make the bloopers real.
Yeah, well, it certainly is, isn't it? So let's try that again. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to. Oh, do you know, I nearly said it again.
It's good morning. It's good morning, Adam.
Rob, would you do the honours, please? Clearly, this isn't working for me, is it, today?
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another edition of SalesTV North America.
Rob, can I just ask, are you actually in court?
He is in court.
It very much looks like you. It's another episode of Judge Judy. Or,
there we go. I am live from Startup Boston Week here in Suffolk University, and I have found a mock trial classroom where they have a full court setup here, and I decided to sit in the judge's chair.
Brilliant.
Nice.
I know a lot of people in Boston that have been in a real courtroom, but we won't go into that.
You need the wig.
That's a British thing.
Well, that's
we
a British
don't do
thing.
wigs.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
I wondered where you were going with that for a minute there, Alex, but there you go.
So, as we were saying,
Yes.
the topic of today's session is things that you can do to make your sales team fit for the modern world, 2023 and beyond. And how did we arrive at this as a topic, Alex?
Well, we arrived at this as a topic because I thought it would be good to share some of the insight that I was able to glean from a leadership roundtable discussion that I led last week on behalf of the Institute of Sales Professionals. So there was a bunch of sales leaders in a virtual room, and I set the scene talking about a few things within our industry, and then we chatted about them for a bit. So by way of setting the scene for this conversation, we touched on the first point. There's 3 points. The first point was buyer and seller misalignment, and how, you know, we've seen over the last decade or more buyer behavior changing. So more and more of the purchase decision is being made behind closed doors. Buyers no longer trust sellers. I think it's 72 or 75% of buyers want a rep-free experience now as a result of being sold to for so many years. The second point was the workforce is becoming younger and younger, and so within the next 2 years, the workforce, including the sales workforce, will be 27% of the workforce will be Gen Z within the next 2 years. If we think about millennials, it's close as well. It's closer to 50 to 75% of the workforce are going to be Gen Z and millennials. And as we know, this younger generation act and behave a little bit differently than us oldens. The one thing I think about here is the fact that Gen Z, I want to say entitled. They feel more entitled. I think I can get away with saying that, given that I've got three Gen Zs as kids myself, and they have quite strong values and beliefs about the world. And if we think as sales leaders we can force them to do things that no longer work, like cold calling and cold emailing, when they know it doesn't work themselves, they're going to challenge that. They're not going to do it. If we force them to do it, it's going to cause a bigger problem that we're seeing now in sales, which is salespeople's mental health is suffering. And this moves us quite nicely on to the third point, which is 79% of salespeople are highly stressed. 63% of them are suffering with poor mental health, and 60% of sales leadership are suffering with poor mental health as a result of, I think, these things coming together, buyer behavior changing, and sellers being forced to do things that no longer work. Therefore, they're not generating the conversations and the pipeline that they need to be successful. And so, yeah, I think it all sounds a bit doom and gloom, but there is light on the horizon. So, unless you guys have anything to add to that, we can dig into some of the findings from the discussion.
Well, I think that would be a really worthwhile thing to do, because some of those things are quite scary. I've been in the workplace for a long time, but I still feel in many ways that I'm just starting out in the workplace, oddly. And the fact that such a huge proportion of the workforce is going to be a tranche of people that really people of our age can't relate to. Well, only in an abstract kind of way. We're not them. We haven't got the same motivators as them. We can try to understand them, but they've grown up in an entirely different world to us. When we were young, there was no email, there was no social media, there was no cable TV, there was no, all of the things that they have grown up with. We didn't know, and it shaped them to be very different to us. Having all of the answers at their fingertips. Kids at school all having smartphones, so they can proof anything instantly. Creates a very different kind of person, doesn't it?
Jesus, mate, you made it sound like an episode of Oliver Twist. Then it's just like all the things you didn't have in.
Well, hold on, I'll take my candle and I'll go upstairs.
There's only one thing I would probably not disagree with, but I think we leap to sales when we say that they don't believe cold calling works, except I think there's a slightly different step before that. When young people, Alex, are looking for purpose now, they're looking for, I think, organizations to tackle stuff that, without making it geopolitical, politicians aren't. So they're looking for people and companies to take a stance on global warming. They're looking for companies to take a stance on geopolitical situations, and big companies. You guys worked in Oracle, I worked in EMC and Dell and whatnot, and the reality about that is clearly bigger companies like the BPs and the Barclays have got a bigger ability to do that. But I think that expectation flows all the way down to every company has to have a purpose and it has to have an authenticity. Now that then comes into sales, and I think that pulls sales as a vocation one step even further away, because actually I could be in a company and connect to a purpose or do other things, but if I'm in sales, I'm actually flogging something, and actually there's a far greater correlation between purpose in sales and even non-purpose. So if you're selling defibrillators, there's a real purpose in that. As a salesperson, you can hold your head up high and go, got it. And I'm making a real difference because I'm saving people's lives. If you're selling Heinz baked beans in FMCG to Walmart, it's a bit harder to find that purpose, and it's other ways around it. And I think there's almost a lens, and then sales is a sub lens of that, and it's actually probably it's a magnifying lens to some of those issues. So I agree with you completely, but I think there's a step for that, and we discussed it this morning in EMEA that we haven't quite caught up as sales in almost that moral and social and ethical purposes to what we do. We still think of it as a number, and we have addictive leaders, because then that brings me on to connecting to this is, Adam, you can appreciate these people because you have growth mindset. You do not pick up and say what works for me, or so what worked for me when I was a young salesperson works for everybody else. And that's one of the reasons why I really like you, because you've got that open-mindedness, different view. But there are so many sales leaders that don't have that.
Yeah.
Andy, and I think I would actually add to that, which is that all of us are used to doing things outside of work and accessing things. So we have mobile phones, we're used to using social media. It doesn't matter what social media is, but we expect the world to work in a particular way. Yeah. And I think what happens is that we come to work, and the IT systems that we're given don't work like that. I remember being in corporate, an CFO saying to me that they couldn't get people to come and work in the finance department because what they had to do was use 2 PCs. One PC had to use an old web browser because the system that they were accessing was green screen, and the other one was more Windows related, but it wasn't Windows as you would expect it. And people would just sit there and go, they'd last 6 months at maximum and go, I can't deal with this rubbish. I'm off.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that, and we're going to get back to Alex, but I was doing my postgraduate certificate in higher education, which is part of the things you need to do. And the lady who delivered it today was brilliant because she actually delivered the entirety of 2 days in best practices to what you would deliver as a lecturer. And so you picked it up. But to your point, she actually picked up this, and she showed us all, if you want to engage students, go to Socrative. And you can go to Socrative Student, ask everyone to download the app, give them a number, 3 questions are in it, and students ask, and it automatically shows which students have picked one, and go, you didn't do that even 10 years ago. So to your point, Tim, technology is there in such an easy way, and we're even using it in education right now, where you're right, people walk out there and they go, to your point, we all know it because we're in IT, 70% of an IT budget is spent on keeping the lights on. It's not on innovation or anything like that. So you go, right, yeah, those practices just don't work.
Yeah.
So I'm coming back to Alex, which is, it's not just sales where we're saying we shouldn't be like cold calling because it's old technology. Finance are in that position as well. Procurement could be in that position as well. There's lots of departments where we're trying to motivate people, but we're not giving them the tools that actually make them, and they know these people aren't turning up and going, I don't know what to do. These people are turning up and saying, I do know what to do. Give me the tools. And if you don't, I'm off.
And further to that point, it's not just the younger generation saying cold calling doesn't work. I was coaching a client yesterday, and he had, well, let me say, he had as much gray hair as I have. And he sat down and we were talking about his approach to the market and so on. And he had bought a lead list from someone. And how did that work out? Well, why do you think that is? I don't know. So let me ask you this. If somebody had purchased a lead list and you were on it and they cold called you, would you answer that? No, it wouldn't even ring my phone. I've set my phone up such that if you're not in my contacts, you don't ring my line. So you don't believe cold calling works on you. Why would you think cold calling works for you?
I mean,
there was the epiphany.
That is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I think that is linked back to what Alex said, which is buying has changed. And it has, because the one bias that we can all own up to is we're all consumers. And consumerism and how we act as buyers in our consumer hat and identity, we look for markers of trust all the time. But as a consumers now, in the UK, we used to have, if you had a landline, BT would be, offer you a screening service that you pay for, because everyone would be calling you at 6 o'clock at night to actually try and flog you something. And as consumers, we said, well, no, we don't want that anymore. We don't want cold calling. Well, we all go into business at 9 o'clock in the morning, or metaphorically into business, virtually into business, and we don't then go, well, actually, yes, I'd love a cold call from somebody that's a corporate buyer or a corporate person that's like, yeah, okay. It's a great question here. Let's look at this.
Jerry's good comment, Jerry. Yeah.
What does Jerry say?
Jerry says, on big ticket sales, I question the value of cold calling for my expensive sales professionals. I think you get a higher ROI for them working on the middle and bottom of the funnel.
Absolutely.
I would say, Jerry.
But at the middle or bottom, are they cold?
Good question. But I would say, Jerry, if you want to go and get somebody in, and I take my head in my hands with so many social selling experts on the write them a letter.
Yeah, I mean, just do something to be different. But I mean, your point, Andy, is, and you're right. You don't go into work, sit at your desk, and say what I'm looking for is for somebody to cold call me. However, and Tim and I have seen this a number of times, when people do go into work and they do cold calling, so they know that they hate it, they hate being the recipient of it, and then somehow they think that it's okay. And we've seen sales directors say, I'm gonna get my guys to do more outbound calling, and then their phone rings and they say, no, it's a cold call, I won't take that. And they put their phone down. And it's like the irony of it is just beyond delicious.
Yeah, well, and so social selling is about being social. So if it means handwriting a note and sealing it with a wax seal, anything that makes you as the individual stand out and be a little bit different.
Alex, I laugh because I was part of that exact conversation this morning. One of the tech founders was speaking with another tech founder, and the founder was saying, I am so happy. I just bought a wax seal with my logo. I can't wait to start sending some letters, because he wanted to stand out. So the fact that you pick up on that, they are actually recognizing, it's time.
He's going to write them with a quill as well.
Yeah.
Dip it in the ink and write them with a quill.
That may be, but just the fact that you pick something so random and
it's interesting. I did it. I ran an experiment. Someone said to me, what you need to do with your book is you need to send it to people. They'll read it and then they'll buy off you. So I did an experiment. I sent 3 books out. 2 of them never arrived. And they never arrived because people don't have pigeonholes anymore.
Right.
So they did actually arrive, because Amazon actually turned up at a reception and said, I've got a parcel for. First of all, I think they went, it's a bomb, and they probably got the bomb disposal experts in or something. They just, why is some weirdo sending parcels? But there was no way of actually getting the parcel internally to the particular person.
Funny.
Was it sent to a residence or a place of business?
It was sent to a place of business.
That makes more sense to me. Okay.
Yeah.
So
go on.
Go ahead, Alex.
Well,
so what else did you discuss, Alex?
So we were a relatively small group. There was about 5 or 6 of us, and we talked about, well, what does the future of sales look like? What are we doing? What are we not doing? And there were a few things that came out of the discussion, none of which are that groundbreaking, I must add. But the first...
You're being British.
You're going to be very surprised with this one, especially given that we're talking about sales, relationship building.
Whoa, hold on. That's not...
That is groundbreaking and innovative, Alex.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? I think the one thing that we really kind of honed in on was the fact that, we're all focusing on such a small percentage of the market, looking for those people, those businesses that are in market to buy now, that we can qualify. And actually what we need to do is shift our thinking and actually build relationships with people, human to human relationships, so that when they are ready to buy, they actually go to you.
That reminds me of another discussion I've been having. This has been a fantastic event. I'm going to do a cheap plug for Startup Boston Week. If you have the opportunity to participate, you can participate virtually as well. So in that way, it is worldwide. But I was having a conversation with somebody about events and networking. And 2 things came out. I'll say this. In the theme of 5 things that will make your sales team fit for the future, here's one I want to add to it. To make your team fit for the future, provide them with social enablement. And in explaining to somebody what I was talking about at this conference, well, what do you mean social enablement? I said, well, those of us from my generation, we know how to network at events like this. We know how to meet people. We know how to follow up. The generations coming up behind us don't. The generations coming up behind us do understand social media platforms, but our generation, not so much. To make your sales team fit for the future, provide them with social enablement. Those that know how to network don't generally know how to transfer that to a social platform. Help them. Those that know the social platforms inside and out don't know the beauty of networking.
Yeah.
Help them. There is something for everyone in that. And that's where we're going anyway. So make your team fit for the future with social enablement.
Yeah, that's another topic we identified, the digital skill gap. You know, so the younger workforce, as you said, Rob, they're quite comfortable using social media in a personal environment with their friends, but you know, thinking about that in a professional environment where you know, they've got to set up face-to-face conversations with someone that they haven't yet met, that's pretty daunting, and that's the gap.
Yes, because I would actually say that there's probably a digital gap which goes across all ages.
Sure.
Because COVID is, you know, even my mum, who's 85, uses social media. There's a, you know, she was forced to go online because of COVID. But I've just connected with somebody who is just straight out of college, university. She has 30 connections on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
she's in her first job. It's her first month. It's just somebody that a target account of mine. And you know, it's like, this isn't somebody who knows how to use social media.
Yeah. Well, that's what
you know how to use social media to get to meet your mates down the pub. And this is where quite often we meet people and they say, we've hired a bunch of millennials. They understand social media. They'll sort social selling out, and they don't.
Well, what they understand social media for is they understand the media part of it.
Yes.
They understand how to consume. They understand how to post for the purpose of going viral, but they don't know how to be social. And that's the opportunity in sales. Andy, I think you had said the relationship building aspect of it, but they don't understand how to take that conversation or start that conversation on a platform like this. I dare say some don't even know how to start that conversation in person, just from what I've been experiencing at this.
Well, I just put that, which is actually, if you think this is the Matt Dixon Jolt type viewpoint, but it's human social skills, as in physical, you know, and it's digital, and actually, you know, you're high on one, but you quickly get down to low on the other one. There isn't the optimal zone of understanding both and getting a blend, to your point, Rob, yeah? I'm
That's what social enablement is.
So is the problem that people don't know how to be social or don't know how to network, or is the problem sales?
I think there's two. I was on a conversation no more than an hour ago with an American chap, and he was talking about social selling as a channel, and it's not. And I think that's the problem within organizations. They think social selling is a channel, not actually like a way of life. I think you have a better term for it, Adam, than way of life, but it's a mindset. It's
a lifestyle.
lifestyle.
They see it as a tactic, or as a so you're doing lots of other things. They don't see it as a strategy or as a you know, it's, I'm trying to think, what's the marketing
Campaign.
They see it as a campaign, with a beginning and an end, or something like that.
But I would argue that and I'm not disagreeing with anything that anyone said, but one of the challenges is the sales element of this. So young people and old people are really good at forming relationships. Everybody is really good at forming relationships. When you meet somebody in a bar or in a coffee shop or a sporting event that your kids are playing at or whatever, you strike up a conversation with them and you chat and you get to know that person and you listen to them and they listen to you and you form some sort of relationship. And the problem comes when I say, so I've got a product that absolutely is perfect for you, and I think you should let me come and present to you and show you what my product's capable. Because that's whoring yourself to that person. It's like it's missing the point of a relationship. The point of the relationship is that I'll give you loads of advice, I'll help you, I'll chat to you, I'll get to know you, you'll get to know me, we'll get to like each other, you'll know what I do. And then when the time is right, I will be your default first port of call. And the problem is when I pop the question, we talk about how in sales, you need to qualify people out. And the fundamental problem with qualifying somebody out is it doesn't qualify that you're not going to buy. It qualifies that you're not going to buy at this moment. And the problem with that is that when I have qualified you out, you do not want to be qualified back in again normally. Because I've shot my bolt, that's the end of it. I've spoiled it now. Whereas if I think of you less as a qualifying you out and more as a qualifying you now or later, the nice thing is I can keep you within that hub of people that I'm engaging with, that I'm having conversations with, that I'm sharing good stuff with. And ultimately, when you are ready to buy, hopefully you'll have known me for far longer than you'll have known any of my competition. And then I will seem like the obvious, trustworthy place to come.
But not every person has the luxury of being able to do that, Adam, because they're forced to look through a very narrow lens.
Absolutely, but that's less about the individual, and that's more about the structure, the corporate structure within which they're placed.
Yeah.
So the part of the challenge that you get in most large enterprises is that rarely do people get to run the same territory for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
So these are your target accounts this year. Next year they're going to be different target accounts. Oh, so I'm back to square one again, trying to build relationships with those people.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, the other thing that came out of the conversation was the impact of marketing, or I should say, what's the opposite word of impact?
Lack of impact.
Lack of impact.
Swallow a thesaurus.
Yeah. Traditional.
Ineffective.
And ultimately, we were talking about the fact that traditional marketing strategies are losing their effectiveness, which then puts more pressure on the sales team to perform and generate the conversations and the leads. And I think it was Brent Adamson, when he joined one of our other podcasts several months ago, was talking about kind of the explosion of content in B2B, and sort of, content marketing in B2B has kind of had its day between 2010 and 2020, where there's just so much information. It's very difficult to cut through the noise, and which is why it sort of comes back to and I know, Andy, you've talked about this before, the jolt effect, and the individual developing their personal brand, and it's that authenticity, that uniqueness about the individual that cuts through the noise, not the insight, the knowledge.
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry, I'll say it. We talk about mis-selling. It's the only thing I can think of that if somebody's done something wrong in an organisation, they call it mis-selling. Yeah, we never talk about mis-marketing, and I find it bizarre, and it's sort of light-hearted way. And Rob, please translate this into American. But ATMs in the UK have this thing on top of them called free cash. It's never free. It always comes out of my account. So that's one level of mismarketing. And I don't know about you, but I drive around London or anywhere and look at building sites for condos, and it's like, I've never ever seen anyone advertise a perfectly adequate apartment. They're always luxury apartments.
Luxury apartments.
Yeah, and you go, and I'm trying to make it lighthearted because the reality of it is everything's superb, and it's like, therefore, it's almost like the superheroes, isn't it? It's like, if everyone's a superhero, then no one's a superhero because everyone's at the same level. Yeah.
Andy, I'm laughing because in the last marketing class that I had on Friday afternoon, I delivered exactly what you just said. The topic was setting expectations and customer satisfaction. And the example I used was exactly that from The Incredibles. If everybody is super, then nobody is. But along the lines of setting expectations, right out of the textbook, it said you want to set expectations slightly above what the customers are looking for, but not so far above that in order to deliver it, it would be too expensive for the business to do so. Also, it went on to talk about how customer satisfaction is anchored in those expectations that you set. And if you're setting the wrong expectations, then your customer satisfaction is going to be diminished. So to your point about the free cash, I imagine that is withdrawing from the ATM without paying an additional ATM surcharge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I said you can. What's that?
I was going to say, if you pick up Andy's cash card, it is free cash. Just saying.
Yeah, that's true. But if I said to you, no, surcharge free, okay, but free cash, now I'm in. Especially if you're putting these like outside the bar where maybe I've had one or two and my decision-making capabilities are diminished.
Yeah, but we come from IT background. To your point, Adam, if you took a black kind of board pen and took out, the uniqueness of most marketing spiel for most big companies, whether it be banks, whether it be IT, whether it be professional services, 70% of it's pretty much the same.
Oh, yeah,
So
and more besides.
But
Yeah.
if therefore, here's the problem for that Alex is pushing out, which is I agree with violently. If people are holding out salespeople from being the trusted advisor or uncovering the unknown problem and relying on a bunch of the Internet of Everything messages that are 70% alike, are we surprised that most things end up in misdiagnosed self-diagnosis and no deal?
Yeah.
So it isn't about actually just it's a problem for salespeople. It's a problem actually for marketing people as well, which is actually here's a concept. Why don't you spend all your money on credential marketing, which is this is the impact we had on customers, and you look a lot like this customer, so maybe we'd have that positive impact on you.
Yeah. Isn't that the problem though with all technology organizations? They're leading with the prescription before the diagnosis.
Most technology companies, Alex, are product driven.
Yeah. But also not even to your point, Tim, though, they're not even translating in that. So when I used to work for a well-known one, the engineers would be really excited because they go, oh, I bought out a disc that goes twice as fast. And but it goes twice as fast. Got it. But what does that mean for a bank? Well, it goes twice as fast.
I have a friend who worked for a manufacturer like that one, a Japanese one, and the technical people said we've got a disc that goes faster at half the price. You need to go and talk to CIOs about it. And he went, really? Do you think the CIO is interested about how the disc is gonna? Oh yeah, that's really exciting. No, they're not.
Yeah, we always had one in Martech, which is it's real time. Okay, what are the real time use cases? What do people really want to know that Big Brother's watching them because you've sent them a marketing message as soon as they've landed on the website?
Yeah. There was a big CRM vendor that had it down to, I think it was 15 or 30 seconds. So you get an email and a call pretty much instantaneously. No. And I remember saying to the agent, I said, do you not think this is a bit creepy? He said, no, not at all. I said, really? He said, yeah, but don't tell anybody. So I think you need to pass some feedback.
Yeah. But that's the thing, isn't it? It's like just because you can, it doesn't mean you should. And I think that to your point, Andy, everything is homogenized out there because people are looking for greater and greater expansive ways of describing what it is they do. You know, nobody is third best than a little bit expensive, ever. Everybody is market leading. Everybody is customer focused. Everybody is all of these things that are hygiene. And, you know, we're customer focused. We put our customers first. Well, I would hope you would. I would hope everybody would. Surely that's the point of being a customer in a customer business.
But yeah. So I've got a great mate who used to be the global head of recruitment at IBM, and Kev is just hilarious. And he said, and this is a LinkedIn thing, but it's linked people, salespeople advertising themselves on LinkedIn. So we then talk about brand. We talk about making yourself appealing. Let's do some research. It's a bit of a laugh. Let's go and find 20 people each on LinkedIn as salespeople and actually look at common words, because I guarantee it will be super customer centric. We could do bullshit bingo, couldn't we? That turns sales buyers off. Which is
we should do that next week. We should do that actually.
150% over goal.
Maximize.
Yep.
Optimize.
All of those. Let's come up with some bullshit bingo words together tomorrow when we're all in the office and go, okay, let's go and find out how. I'm sure we could probably use AI to figure it all out, save ourselves a job. But that's the point, because actually customers see that. Even if you put that out, even if you've got some really interesting content, it leads back to you. And if your profile that basically says, smashed my number last year, well, do I want someone who smashed their number last year to even have a conversation with me?
I'm the most aggressive salesman in the world. When I get my teeth into somebody, I will never let them get away until they've spent some money with me. Do you fancy having a call?
Actually, wouldn't that be fun? Let's put a spoof LinkedIn profile up there and see how many people engage with it.
Yeah,
that would be brilliant.
And what was the thing, Alex, about buyers not wanting to talk to salespeople?
Hard to believe, isn't it?
Adam, it's interesting that you picked up on customer-centric marketing, because I was asking a CMO yesterday. I said, I'm teaching this intro to marketing class. If there's only one thing they walk away with all semester and remember, what do you think that one thing should be? And he said, the importance of customer-centric marketing. That's great. But that didn't even exist when you and I were studying our undergrad, did it? Oh, no, I suppose it didn't. So we've gone from something that doesn't even existing to now we seem to be getting it wrong. How do we fix that? Or do we fix that? Or do we move from that?
Anything else, Alex, in terms of the 5?
I know we've only got 6-7 minutes left, so here's one. I'm hoping will stimulate some discussion between us and the audience. Reward systems.
Ooh.
So the really healthy discussion around this. The current compensation and measurement systems in sales don't adequately reward long-term relationship building.
Yes.
And if we believe the success of our business is based on the strength of relationships we have between anyone within the organization and our target market, not just salespeople, then why are we not measuring strength of relationship and rewarding our salespeople on that?
Well, that's because we've been hijacked. It's a really great point. We've hijacked that and called it customer experience. Yeah, and it's like, it's not customer experience. It's relationship quality. And you're right. It should be measured in relationship quality, and it should be measured on all of the cognitive reasons as to why people buy. Trust 52% plus, empathy. There's 5. We can share them on a later one. Go through that. And the reality about it is that when you try and explain that to people, they go, no, I'm going to get a customer experience survey out there, and I'm going to get a, what do they call it?
NPS score.
Yeah, NPS score. It's like that I'm done. That's cool. It's like, no, that doesn't tell you anything about the strength of the relationship. And actually, it doesn't tell you how many stakeholders you actually need to have a relationship with. And if it's 9 plus, what's your relationship quality like with all of those people? Because again, that's the challenge of customer, isn't it? And you've got to actually have the strength of relationship with all of them, but have one of them that's going to be the advocate for you and understand all the other drivers, and that's adaptive selling. And actually, you can't be successful in sales without being highly adaptive now and agile.
And our relationships being inspected as part of the quarterly business review process, the QBR process. If you've got salespeople coming in and they're being reviewed on accounts, surely they need to be inspected in terms of the relationships within there, number of, depth of, etc.
And once the opportunity is created, it's often too late to then build those relationships.
Yes.
The crux of that problem goes beyond sales. The crux of that problem is the goals of the individual contributor simply mirror the goals of leadership all the way up to the C-suite. And corporations have short-term goals. So it's just trickled down. And Simon Sinek, in his book, The Infinite Game, talks a lot about that. And I would not be doing it justice to try and summarize it. But to me, that's what it boils down to, is you're taking the short-term goals of the organization and just dividing them amongst each person within that organization. So trying to fix it at the sales level first, I don't think is the right approach, even though that's probably ultimately what you would need to do.
But isn't part of the problem, so Chris said it here, compensation drives behaviors.
It does.
So in an ideal world, what you would do is you would pay the salesperson. So I'm thinking about technology companies. You would pay the salesperson a basic salary, and then you would pay them a monthly uplift on that based on how many clients paid their monthly subscription. So the incentive would be for the salesperson to maintain the relationship with the account. Instead, what happens is you get your basic salary, and then you get the amortized value of the 3-year contract you've just signed, and you get that paid in your next month's salary. So you get another X thousand on top of your salary. And then there's no incentive whatsoever for you to phone that customer up again until 3 months before they're due for renewal. And then all of a sudden you want to go and take them out for lunch and show them what's new and wonder how you can upsell them and wonder why they don't want to talk to you, because you won their trust. You did a really good job of guiding them through the buying process. And then you were gone over the horizon, driving your sports car to your holiday home that had just been paid for by them signing a 3-year contract. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you said to a salesperson, rather than getting all of that 3 years worth of commission now, you're going to get it every single month that the client stays with us. So you need to keep the client happy. You need to make sure that they've got, and you need to grow your relationship with the client in a long-term kind of way. Now, the salesperson would go, yeah, that's great in theory, except Andy's company will pay me all of the money now. And because I can now close the deal, get my 3 years worth of money now, and then go and work for Tim's company, and then close the deal and get 3 years worth of money there within the 3-year period. So I can get a huge uplift. And until we're literally putting the customer front and center, what drives the best behavior for the customer's experience, we're never going to change this, are we?
So most cloud companies have matured in the way they pay stuff. So now a particular company that we now know are paid based on the client actually using the service.
Yeah. So adoption of.
But then it comes back to Andy's point about purpose, belonging, and I think salespeople are now experiencing, and I know this is a blanket statement, but money isn't everything anymore.
Wow.
Well, that same
with
diagram,
that,
nowhere else, but that same diagram applies. Compensation for younger people is not what it is for older.
Yeah. And Chris, hi, by the way, great to see you.
Yes. Hi.
On that note, this has been another edition of the Sales TV North American episode. Thank you to the audience for chiming in.
Thank you.
Thank you to the panelists. Another great discussion. And we will see you again next